Alright guys, this is kind of washed out. Let me mess around with this camera. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I guess this is the best you can do. The video's not as important. I guess that's good like that. Alright, that's pretty good. Okay, cool. What's up? What's up? What's up, everybody? Alright. We gonna try this again. Guys, welcome to the Heroes Lecture. Lecture 1, version 2.2. I'm trying to make this better every single time. So yeah, let's get started. We're here to talk about the hero's journey, this magical story that runs throughout every culture, and but we'll talk more about that in a second. I want to start. You know, let me try this again. Guys, welcome. Thanks for joining me. We're here to talk about the hero's story. This is the hero's journey. Let's try again. All right, guys, welcome. Thanks for joining me. This is my hero's lecture, part 1 of 4. This is a 4-part lecture series, and this is version 2.2. So we're trying to make this better every single time, but I hope you get a lot out of it. So, the hero's story. What is the hero's story? It is a narrative. We're going to talk a lot about narratives, and I'd like to start just by talking about my own narrative. So in my younger years, actually not too long ago, my general thought about my life was that I wanted to get a job that I liked well enough, that I was good enough at, where I could make as much money as easily as possible. And so I chose insurance, and that's nice because it has like this recurring income. And I got to the point where I could do like 20 hours a week and make like $150,000 a year. Only one problem. It was making me miserable. I think I just had this nagging feeling that I was wasting my talent, that it wasn't what I was meant to be doing. And I just felt too afraid to change it for a lot of reasons. I just thought, well, I mean, I have this thing. I'm not working that hard. Like, how can I throw that all away to chase after this dream that I'm not even sure even makes sense? Like, I just had this vague sense that I should be doing videos, you know. Who would have guessed? So I had this narrative in my head where it was like, okay, make money, like get a job that I kind of like, make money, get a house, get a car. I had all those things. Get a wife, get a family, and then die, you know? And it got to the point in the year, in 2020, it got to the point where I was getting violently ill. Like something inside me was just revolting against this job. That about at once every 2 to 3 months, I would get horrifically, like apocalyptically nauseous. You know that feeling in your stomach where you think you're gonna throw up, but it took over my whole body, and I would just I would just lie down on the couch and just I felt like the world was gonna end, and then I would throw up violently for like 3 hours. This whole episode would take like 16 hours, and it would always end at like 3 or 4 in the morning. My arms wrapped around a toilet bowl, just breaking out in sweat, shivering. And then the next morning, it was like nothing happened. It was the weirdest thing, and doctors could not figure it out. And I just had this image of myself cowering in a corner, just with my money, with my job, hoping nothing bad would happen. And I would have this argument with myself saying, like, what the hell am I so afraid of? Like, I'm going to die. Something's going to kill me. Why don't, why am I just stuck in this corner? Why do I feel like I can't let this thing go? So I finally, at the encouragement of my sister, decided, maybe I should try to figure something out. So I moved to New York City. This is in 2020, the heart of COVID. Probably the only fool heading to New York City, which was like one of the epicenters of the breakout or whatever. And I sold off the business, and it was at that time, just being broken in spirit, broken in body, not knowing what I was going to do. I met up with this guy named Bitcoin Bill. Bitcoin Bill. Obviously, it's a nickname. But he showed me his digital wallets with millions of dollars in there, and he said, this is for verbatim. He goes, I'm from the future, and I'm here to tell you that Bitcoin is going to hit $100,000 in 2021, so the following year. And I was so destitute and desperate for a narrative that was full of the unknown. I mean, part of what I hated about my life at that time when I was doing insurance was that I felt like I could predict every day of my life for the rest of my life. I could just predict it exactly, and it would just be the same shit over and over again, and then I would just die. And here he comes with this crazy story, and I just thought, that's novel, that's interesting, yeah, fuck it, let's do it. So then I pulled out all my retirement accounts. I mean, I went crazy. I refied my condo. I plowed all that into Bitcoin. And he had this whole thing where it's like, level 1, buy Bitcoin. Put some money into Bitcoin. Level 2, put all your money into Bitcoin. Level 3, there is actually a level 3, add leverage. Meaning like take out loans against the Bitcoin that you bought and then buy more Bitcoin. Insanely risky. You could say stupid. Definitely stupid. But I did it because I needed an adventure. I needed a new narrative, you could say. So yeah, I mean, the narrative now was like, I'm smarter than everyone. We're more forward-looking. We're more far-reaching with our vision. We're braver than everyone. We spot the future before everyone else. I buy the Bitcoin. I make a shit ton of money. I laugh at everyone else. They're all working hard, slaving away 9 to 5. I just bought some Bitcoin because I'm brave and smart. That was a new narrative. And now we get all these women, whatever it was. So, as you can imagine how the story might end, everything was great. The coin kept going up and up and up from about 30,000. Actually, it started around 15,000, and then it ended up going up to about $65,000. And because of all the leverage that I had about $3.5 million in my bank account. Or, not my bank account, but worth of Bitcoin and all these other coins. At one point, I made like $800,000 in a week. I mean, it was insane. I was so high. I was like euphoric. And I just thought I was the biggest genius, even though none of this was my idea. So there I was partying and stuff and calling my mom, I'm a millionaire, I made it. In May of 2021, it all came crashing down. It went from 65,000 to below 20 to about 28,000. And because of all the loans that I had taken out, when that price dropped, I got wiped out. Or I should say I should have gotten wiped out. If we have any crypto traders out there, I was on the Ethereum network, and excuse me. I was on the Ethereum network, and it couldn't liquidate me fast enough because everyone was pressing sell at the same time. So the network basically, it broke, like it got super backed up, it clogged down, and by the time it caught up to me, Bitcoin had rebounded from 28,000 to like 35, whatever, 40,000, and I recovered some of my wealth. Now, I was absolutely traumatized. I lost about 80% of my life savings. I mean, and I'd never done anything like this before. I was always kind of, well-behaved, very slow and steady, methodical. And I was so traumatized that my mom, when she took me out to, God bless her, she took me out to a movie, Fast and the Furious Part 9 or something. And I couldn't watch it. It was too horrifying. Like, every time there was a car crash scene, I'm like, no, my money, I would like physically shake and tremble, during that movie. So I was in a bad place, and, what do you do when you've lost your money in the market? Well, obviously you try to make it back. I mean, that's obviously the right move, right? So I tried to make it back. I never wanted to work again. I wanted to get back to that glory, that narrative. I'm the smart guy. I'm going to make it. And so I just kept all inning and going up and losing it and going up and losing it and up and down and up and down. Each time my stack got a little bit smaller and smaller and smaller until in the summer of 2022, I got scammed out of the little money that I had left. Probably lost 50% of the money that I had left, something like that. And when I got scammed, I was like, you know what? That's okay. I hit bottom. I got to do something. I have a problem. So I pulled out of the market and tried to get a job. I became a waiter at a restaurant, 45 years old, college educated, trying to do this job that 20-year-olds can do. And I got fired from my first job. My mom got so stressed out, she got a stroke and ended up in the hospital. That was yet another low. That was a low point. But I picked myself up and I got another job. The job that I have now, I'm a waiter. And my mom recovered, and I started to find my way back. I started listening to Jordan Peterson videos and started cleaning my room. And there was one point, I guess after I got fired, somewhere in there, I remember sitting on the floor of my shower. Actually, I was in the bathtub, just lying in the bathtub, and the shower's on, right? It's just dribbling on my head. And I just remember thinking, do I want to go on? Do I want to keep going? And just searching myself to see if I had it in me, if I wanted to keep going. And I don't know why or how, but there was something inside me that was like, yeah, I do. I still had hope. I don't know why or, where it came from. And that was the beginning of my journey back. And, I decided to take the narrative of I'm in a redemptive arc, So it was this idea of narrative repair. So we're here to talk about the hero's journey. We're here to talk about narratives, these stories that we tell ourselves that give us direction for our lives. And we are surrounded by narratives. We have tons of narratives. Lots of modern narratives where it's like, what's the plan for your life? What's the narrative of your life? The purpose? Well, get good grades, get a good job, get a good family, get good kids, right? And then die. And that's this multiple variants of that narrative. Now, it doesn't have to be quite that cynical. Like, you try to chase after your dreams. Maybe you become a doctor, you become a lawyer. These are all... The paths that we choose in life are all understood in terms of a story. We envision what it would be like. We become this almost character, right? We become a doctor, become a plumber, and we live these narratives out. And so narratives are very powerful. Now, if you were to take a step back to a bigger narrative, then you start getting into what you would call religious territory. I think all of it's religious, but we can get into that. But you get into these bigger questions of like, well, who are we really? Where do we come from? What are we? What are we even, guys, what are we doing here? Like, seriously, like, what are we supposed to be doing here? Where are we going? How should we act? What's the setup of the world, and how do we make it so that we do it right? Or can we even do it right? So these bigger questions are handled by religious narratives. I mean, religions are just stories, right? These are stories that answer these questions. We answer them in narratives. The Genesis story, the Muhammad story, the Jesus story, all these different competing narratives. And we're in this place now where we're kind of in this crisis, because I think most people, we look at these different religions and it's kind of like, well, aren't they all kind of saying the same thing? And aren't they all a little bit fantastical, So it feels like if we adopt one of these narratives, it's almost like you have to put on the jersey of a team. Like you join a tribe. I'm a Christian, or I'm a Muslim, and I'm a Hindu, and it's like, if I put on that shirt, then that means if I'm a Christian, now I have to like disagree with Muslims. And if I'm a Muslim, now I have to disagree with Hindus or Christians, And it just feels very unattractive, I think, for most people. Because Again, there's a sense that they're all kind of saying the same thing. And then also, like, they're filled with these stories that feel kind of superstitious or fantastical, um, just nonsensical, right? Resurrections and angels and demons and burning bushes and voices from heaven, all these different things. And so what's happened is we've lost these narratives. We lost a sense of a grand narrative. We're not sure what that story is anymore. And for most of us, we're either kind of more on the atheistic side where it's like, hey, once we die, that's it, man. It's game over. We're basically just a bunch of cells that randomly came together for some reason. C.S. Lewis has a great quote, and that is his reframing of the atheistic mindset is that all of life will have been nothing more than a brief and idiotic spasm. Hold on. That all of life will have been nothing more than a brief and transitory spasm across the idiotic face of infinite matter. Isn't that a great quote? Nothing more than a brief and transitory spasm across the idiotic face of infinite matter. So anyways, that's one narrative, right? I mean, I'm not, probably most of us aren't quite that bleak, but we just have this sense of like, okay, there's something there. We don't know what it is. I don't really want to subscribe to any particular narrative. And so now it's like, well, now what do? We just kind of make it up, or so without these stories, we don't have a direction, because the way we conceive of our lives, how we find direction is we contextualize the elements in our life, and then we come up with a path forward, and that's what a story is. I was born in this place. My parents are here. I'm born into this society. If I want these things, then I have to take this path, and that seems good. So we're left without direction. And so what do we do now? All these fractured narratives. Everyone thinks they're right. They start fighting each other. I don't want that. Well, what if I told you that there is a meta narrative, that there is a grand narrative that stretches across all cultures, including our own, that stretches across all time, all epochs, from 7,000 years ago to today, maybe even especially today. Yes, even us, even our rational, scientific, we're too smart for that ancient story stuff, right? Actually, we celebrate this narrative, ad nauseum. Just like at every level of our culture, we celebrate this narrative. This is the hero story. This is the hero story. Cross-cultural, cross-historical. Every day, multiple times a day, we celebrate this story, and we'll talk about how that's true. So before we get into it, let's talk about let's look at some quotes. I love quotes. So here we go. This is a rabbi, a very respected scholar. What we lack is not a will to believe, but a will to wonder. It's Heschel, God in Search of Man. What a great title, God in Search of Man. What we lack is not a will to believe, but a will to wonder. And so it's like, ooh, where's my thing? Oh, here it is. If I can get you to take a step into the unknown, right? We don't lack a will to believe, a will to wonder. It's like we've been so beaten down by these fractured narratives. And we've been kind of traumatized as a people that all of these mythologies aren't true on a certain level. Like there's no half-naked men in togas hurling lightning bolts down from the clouds. At least not that we can see. Lightning, I guess, is just this chemical process of molecules and electrons. I don't know. And so it's kind of like there's that trauma of like, oh, all these stories are bullshit. Now now there's nothing out there. Now we know that there's nothing out there. That kind of feels like what it means. And what I want to try to get you to do is to start wondering again. Start going, well, maybe there is a shape. Maybe there is some story that we all feel that speaks into who we are. And here's another quote. One does not have to believe everything is true. One only has to believe it is necessary. You don't have to believe everything is true. It's kind of like, can I get you out of this scientific mindset where you already know everything, right? You know that there's no God. You know that there's no, right? There's no half-naked men on clouds, right? The analogous consequences of that, right? There's no burning bushes. There's no resurrections. No, like, if I can get you to see that these stories, these narratives, I'm not going to say that they're true, they're not true. I'm just going to point out that we need them. That there's no other way to unlock who we are without these ancient stories. And we can step into how that works with our rationalist mindset and the science is the religion of today. We're going to talk about that, but my main thought is I'm not here. I don't want to argue my way, argue you about the scientific truths of XYZ or the proof of that or that this has to be right. I'd rather try to entice you, to romance you, to persuade you with something beautiful. So that'll be kind of my overall idea. If I can just kind of get you out of this science mindset a little bit, but you'll see, we'll develop it. But okay, so I love those quotes to try to get you to step into that mystical world, So what is that mystical world? Well, it's the hero story. What is the hero story? The hero story, in a nutshell, is kind of like the knight in shining armor. I mean, everyone pretty much knows this story. It's one of the most fundamental stories we have, and it's a very simple narrative structure. We can think of it as a pattern. So what is the knight in shining armor? Well, it's this guy, probably on a white horse. Why white? Well, white has been a symbol of purity and goodness. Why shining? Why is he shining? Did he polish it? Is he like, it's physically shining? No. Shining like it is a symbol of his virtue. He's like has this light of heaven, for lack of a better word. The light of heaven is on him, this transcendent light, the light of virtue. He is good. What is good? Well, what does he do? He bravely rides. There's a dragon. He rides to the dragon. He slays the dragon, confronts this big, terrible beast that's oppressing and terrorizing the people, and also has captive someone innocent and beautiful. It's hoarding beauty. The beautiful princess slays the dragon, rescues the princess, rides off into the sunset, saves the people, right? That's why his armor shining, the knight in shining armor. He's almost like new, like he has this holy light around him. He's strong, he's brave, he's skillful, he's valorous. He bravely rides. He takes action. He risks his life. He's selfless. Why do we tell these stories? What's the point of this story? Well, you could think of it if you were to try to teach a kid, right? You could take the kid, you could sit him down, you can go, okay, all right, little Billy, I want you to be brave, and I want you to be kind, and I want you to be skillful, and I want you to work. You could just rattle off this list, and he'll fall asleep or ignore you, and then run off and play with his toys. He'll forget about everything you just said. But what if you told him, well, once upon a time, there was this knight, and he had brilliant, beautiful, brilliant armor made of special metal woven together by dwarven blacksmiths, and he rode upon a great white steed, and he you tell the story of the knight in shining armor. Well, what's he gonna do? He might, find like a pot and put it on his head, pretend it's a helmet, and find a stick and pretend it's a sword and run around and beat up pillows thinking that they're dragons, or hit trees or chairs, whatever. He'll reenact that story. Narratives are the embodiment of the values that we hold most dear, the values that we champion. They are hierarchy, they're like organizational apparatuses for values. Because what is the knight in shining armor? What values does he have? Well, he's courageous. He's right. We went over these, right? So it's like these are the things that we champion in the story. The knight embodies those characteristics. So narratives are these containers of value. And so then what is this hero story? So let's talk about the narrative structure. What is the story that we keep telling over and over and over again? Well, let's check it out. So Joseph Campbell helped kind of develop this, but there's definitely a clear narrative structure across multiple, you could call cultural relics or something, that you can see these epic movies. So Dune, Star Wars, Matrix, even Godfather is kind of an anti-hero story, but you already know this story. As I say, this is celebrated by all people for all time, including us. You know the hero story, which is kind of amazing when you think about it. So here are some of the elements, and we'll get into a little more detail, but usually the hero, this protagonist, has a high lineage. That he's born of royal stock, or perhaps of a lineage of, you could say, very gifted, talented people. If you were to think of Paul Atreides, this Dune, you probably, chances are you watch Dune, it's nearly 500 million or something like that, $500 million. He is a son of a duke, right? So high lineage. Usually the hero has some kind of talent, some gift, and this points towards a destiny. Here, I'll use my mouse to point this out. It points towards a destiny. Typically, in this hero's narrative, there is some kind of mentor or father figure, some figure that trains the hero, who was there helping him grow up, comforting them, kind of keeping them under their wing, teaching them, being kind of like a confidant, a coach. And so mentor, father, and then typically the hero is not too thrilled about this destiny that seems to be knocking at his door. A little reluctant, a little scared, a little unsure of himself. Not sure, he wants to have that life. Maybe I'd rather just be a gardener my whole life. What's wrong with that? I don't want to do anything crazy. And then usually what happens is there's what Campbell, I think, calls the point of no return. I like to call it a baptism, a realization that, boom, they have this. Usually it's accompanied by some kind of catastrophe that they have to now take this journey, or that it's almost like they don't have a choice. So they have this realization, there's no turning back, they have to take the hero's journey. And they have to leave everything behind. The normal world gets left behind, they have to step into the unknown. And often this mentor or father figure that they had growing up, this sheltering presence that helped them understand the world, this person dies. And so now they are truly alone. They have to fend for themselves. They have to figure out who they are and take this path on their own. They face inner darkness, their inner demons, their fears, their own evil and malevolence in their own hearts they have to confront. Oftentimes these heroes are related to the enemy in some ways. Like Luke Skywalker is, the son of Darth Vader. I hope I didn't spoil anything for you, but it's kind of been a few decades. They're related to the enemy, so they're very much, they have this shadow side to them, but maybe they're like the redemption of the shadow side. And so they're, these are kind of similar, this baptism and death and resurrection. So they kind of have this symbolic death where they figure themselves out, and then they reemerge as this new person. They're no longer the bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, scruffy kid. They're now this mature, this mature man, woman, whatever, who's fought their battles. They conquered their inner demons. They developed their skills. Now they're ready. They've stepped into their destiny, and they're ready to save their people and slay the dragon. And this is more or less this hero's narrative, and you can see that it's fairly consistent across multiple epic, very very popular movies: Dune, Star Wars, Matrix, like Harry Potter, certainly one of them. In a comedic way, Office Space is kind of like a hero story. The story is just, it's everywhere. It's the one that we keep telling, keep coming back to. So let's get in deeper into this story, and let's talk about Dune. All right, how does this work? Well, you probably just saw Dune. You could probably tell me how this hero story works. Paul Atreides, the son of the Duke, right? High lineage. He seems to have these hidden talents. Certainly, he's talented in combat, but also these witches, the Bene Gesserit, this sacred order of kind of like priests and psychics. They have magic, but like mental magic. And they're kind of perplexed by this guy, Paul. He seems to have some weird calling about him, some weird destiny about him. Even his father, they're going to enter into this transition where they have to move off their home planet onto Arrakis, this desert planet, and his father, the Duke, is like, hey, one day you'll have to become a Duke. And Paul's like, well, what if I don't want to be a Duke? What if I'm afraid to? What if I'm not sure of myself? What if, and the Duke has this great line where he says, well, one thing is true, you'll always be my son. And it's like, oh. But so the Duke is a sheltering presence for him, that he kind of reassures him and lets him know, the world is safe or something. He keeps him under his wing, you could say. And so the story continues. Yeah, so there's the Duke. They land on Arrakis, and of course the Harkonnens ambush them. They set up this whole trap where the Emperor gets involved, and they go in and destroy their city, destroy their armies, and this is kind of like a baptism moment for Paul, where everything familiar gets burned down, and he has to flee. And it's kind of like he's faced with this choice, like, do I take this path into my destiny, or do I just run away? And so he's in some ways forced to make this decision, and he goes into hiding and suffers almost like this symbolic death, right? He goes underground. That's kind of like the grave. So he suffers this death, this baptism and death. He has to leave behind everything familiar. His father, the Duke, gets kidnapped, abducted, and murdered by the Baron. So it's the death of the father. So now he is truly alone. Like the death of his mentor, this sheltering presence. He no longer is with his home. He's away from his family. He's truly alone. Although I guess his mom came with him, but he has to take this journey and face his inner demons. So he joins up with the Fremen. He finds Chani, his woman, and they train him, and he encounters a number of battles and conflicts that strengthen him, and he has to overcome. And he reemerges as not just the kid who was unsure of himself, who didn't know what he wanted for his life. He's decided to accept his fate, what he perceives to be his destiny. And he's developed his gifts, and now he is powerful. And of course, he leads the Fremen to recapture the city. He conquers the Harkonnens. He frees his people. We also learn that he is related to the Baron, that the Lady Jessica is the daughter of the Baron. So he kind of has this connection to this dark side, but maybe he's like the redemption of that. So that's kind of an interesting twist, that there's some kind of shadow to all of us. And in the end, right, he does save his people, and then there's kind of like this cliffhanger of, okay, so now he's going to lead this holy war. So he's fully stepped into his destiny. So yeah, that's one hero story here. We kind of go back to this thing, right? He fulfills all those things. We can do Star Wars, one more. I mean, this, let's see here. Boom. Oop. Okay. Right, Star Wars. It's pretty easy to go through. Luke Skywalker. He seems to have some kind of lineage about him. We learn later that he was related to Darth Vader. But even his parents or his aunt and uncle know this about him. And here he is on this moisture farm, I think it's called. and he's sort of this young kid. He's pretty naive. He's never really left home, you know. He's been on this farm this whole time, but he kind of dreams of adventure, but he doesn't really know if he wants it or he doesn't really understand it. Lo and behold, he gets this call, right? This beautiful woman, Princess Leia, who ends up being a sister, which is kind of weird, but she sends this distress signal to Obi-Wan, and he's like, oh, maybe it's old Ben. So he goes to Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan goes, oh, dude, like, we got to go and help her. You want to come? And Luke is like, I don't know, I got to help my aunt, uncle, and, I mean, what good will I be? I've never done anything like that. And so there is this reluctance. There's always some kind of reluctance to step into the unknown. But of course, what happens is the Empire comes in and torches his family and ruins the moisture farm. And he's like, "Shit, man! Like, this is a baptism moment. Like everything familiar has died away, and now he's got to decide: well, do I stay in this wreckage or do I now try to start taking this path?" It's almost not really even a choice, and that can be how it works out. It's not really a choice, but he ends up choosing, and he ends up going on some adventures, and he accomplishes all these great things. You know, he finds some friends, and he grows, and he starts developing his skills, and he actually has kind of a victory. He destroys the Death Star, but he does encounter some headwinds. You know, in The Empire Strikes Back, his mentor Ben Kenobi gets struck down by Darth Vader, so the death of his mentor. Obi-Wan was the first one that kind of started to teach him about the Force and gave him his first lightsaber. So this is the death of, again, a death of the familiar, I guess. The death of what he knew, and this sheltering presence, this guy that he had. And he confronts, he has a confrontation with Darth Vader a little too soon, and he loses a hand. And this is kind of a symbolic death. He goes into hiding after this. Like, he realizes he's not ready, that he can't confront the darkness that's in front of him. And so he flees to this little-known planet where he finds a new mentor. It's a swamp planet. It's very symbolic. It's kind of like a death. It's murky. It's dark. It's this black, the black ooze of the swamp. There's never any sunlight there. Like, it's always night there. And here's where he trains. He starts to hone his ability. He starts to take steps towards his destiny, to fulfill his gifts, right? To develop his gifts. And eventually he reemerges, the return of the Jedi. This is the resurrection, the new Luke. Look at the determination in his eyes. Look at this guy. Look at how handsome this guy is. He's now fully stepped into it. He's confident. He knows who he is. He's accepted his fate, right? The whole time he realizes he needs to save his father, and so he ends up redeeming his father in the end. His father ends up killing the Emperor, and he repents, saying that I guess he's kind of like, it's too late to save me, but really he was saved. And so he saves his father, he saves his people. The Emperor gets thrown into this crazy pit and dies. And there's great celebration where Billy Dee Williams is there, and Billy Dee brings some Colt 45. So there you go. That's how that story ends. So you can see that this story is celebrated at many levels in our culture. It's certainly told in movies. These are movies that we love. You could say Game of Thrones is a kind of a complex hero story. Again, Harry Potter, he's related to Voldemort. This story is just everywhere. And as I say, it's something that we celebrate all the time, even in our own culture. So where do we see this hero story besides movies? Well, let me show you this. There we go. Check this out.
is going to try to make some play off of some type of ball screen.
8 seconds to go.
There's the switch. They're trapping him.
Naper's in trouble with 5
that's
seconds
the hero
to go.
right there,
Lost
right?
the dribble. Found it again. Leans in.
Oh, he tries.
That's
He
no
misses.
Good. Back tap. Napier for the win.
Boom. Look at that.
He got it.
Look at this reaction. Look at that reaction. Save the people, right? What is that? That's mythical. That's mythical. Now, maybe you're rolling your eyes. Steve, it's not mythical. It's just a game. It is mythical. Why? Why do I say that? Well, what the fuck did this guy do? This kid... What? Look, do you see that reaction? People just freaking out. If you were an alien that landed on the planet that just saw that, they'd be like, well, what happened? What happened? What happened? What happened? Did he save anyone? He must have saved lives. What, did he cure cancer? He cured cancer, right? What did this guy do? And you'd have to explain to this alien, like, well, he dribbled a rubber ball. He dribbles really well. And then he was able to throw it with enough accuracy so that it went through this iron ring. And it's like, why were they celebrating? They celebrated as if he saved the world. He is reenacting the hero story. I mean, why do kids have sports heroes? They call them sports heroes. Why do we get so disappointed when we find out like an athlete was taking performance-enhancing drugs, or that he was cheating in some way, or that he beats his wife, or that he, whatever it is, he murders some people, whatever, it's so devastating because this person that we look towards was embodying the values that we championed. He was the one that could save us. Sports are a reenactment of the hero story. It's a representational reenactment. Symbolic reenactment. It is a religious festival. These are religious festivals. I mean, it's the same as putting on a grass skirt in the Amazon and playing out some cosmic mythology that they had developed over time. It's the same thing. It's just we kind of do it in our own little modern way, and we think it's very cool, and we put on sunglasses, whatever. But these sports is, and we do it all the time. Like, we watch these games every year over and over again. It's a celebration of the hero story. This game represents the values that we champion. It's the story that we need to see. We need to see the champion emerge. We need to see the story play out. So lots of cultural ceremonies, whether it's movies, partner dancing is rich with symbolism. That is a deeply narrative format. Movies, music festivals certainly is some kind of transcendent story in there, a reenactment of some kind. These are all containers of value. These are all stories that we need to hear constantly. Why? Why do we replay these stories? Why do we never get tired of it? From Star Wars to Harry Potter to Indiana Jones to Dune to The Matrix, all these movies, we just never get tired of it. Why? Well, I think it's because somehow I think we perceive that this is our story, that this is who we are, that we were meant to save the world, that we were meant to save the people in some small way. So let's talk about one last hero story. We'll go through it kind of brief, but here's one more hero story that you might be interested in. What about this guy? You ever seen this movie? Oops. Yeah, this is the life of Steve. This is me. This is my story. Who am I? Well, I was born of a high lineage. You could say my parents are a high lineage. They had their own talents and abilities. They had their own accomplishments. And I was born with some talents, that I had some gifts, right? And this all points towards a kind of destiny. A destiny that perhaps I might have been resisting. I wasn't sure if I wanted to step into this whole YouTube channel thing, right? It's kind of scary. It's weird. I don't know if I want to do that. I'd rather just stay safe and just make money. Make money and not die, right? That was basically my strategy. And I had, obviously I had my parents, a father figure, or I had a father, and I had mentors along the way. And then my body started breaking down, right? This is kind of a baptism moment. The job was just crushing me, and something inside me was just rebelling, and my body started freaking out. And so it got so stressful, so much pressure was on me. Just with all that stress, I decided I had to leave. I had to leave my home in Boston and move to New York City and take this adventure from Bitcoin Bill. It was kind of like, almost like a false hero story, but it was maybe a stepping stone towards a hero story. Yeah, I took this Bitcoin journey, right? And I kind of had, you could say, maybe another baptism where I lost all my money. I mean, that was like the true baptism, where I had to really, it forced me inwards to say, what's the meaning of my life? Why am I alive? If I don't have money and I don't have respect, what's the point of life? Is there a point of life? And there was a part of me that was like, yeah, I think there is. Along the way, like my dad had his own issues. My parents got divorced and then he lost a bunch of money too. And so there's a bit of a mentor death there too, where I was like, I couldn't turn to my dad for all the answers, or my mom for that matter. I had to figure it out. I was alone in the darkness. How did I get here? What am I about? How do I get back? What does it mean to get back? What does it mean to be alive? All these questions. Who am I? Am I this guy that just loses all his money, who's incompetent, who can't put one foot in front of the other, who's being laughed at left and right? Like I filmed this whole journey of me losing money. Like I filmed the entire thing and put it on TikTok. It's just it's amazing, man. It's incredible, the footage that I got. Anyways, so I suffered kind of this death, right? And so now I feel like I started finding a new narrative, a new reason for living. And I hope that I do resurrect. This is part of my resurrection. And I want to save the people. And I want to conquer the arch enemy, which I think is within. Although maybe I'll actually have enemies, I don't know. I can't imagine having like enemies. But certainly the enemy within. So what does it mean, this hero story? Why do we keep telling it? Again, for thousands of years, and even today. Like, I just find that so interesting. We're cynical about everything. We hate religion, and yet we tell this story enthusiastically, like at all levels. And to disparage sports is almost like sacrilege. If I was like, this is so stupid, he's just bouncing a stupid ball, everyone's gonna be like, dude, what the fuck? Like, bro, just like get away from me, you know what I mean? Or it's like, why are you watching this dumb story? It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't, it's like, dude, just, can you chill, These stories are so important to who we are, because I think they tell us who we are. And if we can take a step into this story, if we can, actually, I was like, I gotta fix the lighting. If we can take a step into that unknown, then I think you'll find that even if you don't believe it's true, you'll find that firm footing, that you'll realize that you need it. So I'll show you one last clip. I love this clip. Let's see here. Gonna get it queued up. Oops, hang on. Okay, here we go. It's our homie Steve Jobs.
The thing I would say is, when you grow up, you tend to get told that the world is the way it is, and your life is just to live your life inside the world, try not to bash into the walls too much, try to have a nice family life, have fun, save a little money. But life, that's a very limited life. Life can be much broader once you discover one simple fact, and that is everything around you that you call life was made up by people that were no smarter than you. And you can change it. You can influence it. You can build your own things that other people can use. And the minute that you understand that you can poke life and actually something will, if you push in, something will pop out the other side, that you can change it, you can mold it. That's maybe the most important thing, is to shake off this erroneous notion that life is there and you're just going to live in it, versus embrace it, change it, improve it, make your mark upon it. I think that's very important. And however you learn that, once you learn it, you'll want to change life and make it better, because it's kind of messed up in a lot of ways. Once you learn that, you'll never be the same again.
I love that. I love how he frames the modern narrative. Yeah, you just get a good job, get a family, have some fun, save some money. I think for the most part that story is not enough. Why do I say that? If it was enough, then why are you watching these movies? Why are you watching these sports? Why are you watching basketball? Why are you watching Dune? Why do you watch it over and over again? If your life was enough, if that story was enough, just, have a good life, right? As long as you don't hurt anyone, right? Just be a good person. Try not to hurt anyone. It's like, that's like the rallying call of the modern narrative. It's like, don't hurt anyone. You're a good person then. It's like, that is such a fucking lame call, dude. That is not a rallying call. Hey guys, let's all just try to be like good. And I don't know. Let's not hurt anyone, guys. And every time you want to watch that epic movie, that's the call. That's that distress signal from Princess Leia in the R2-D2 unit or whatever. C-3PO, sorry. Oh my god, C-3PO. No, it's the R2 unit. Oh my god, I'm a disgrace to nerds everywhere. So, we're going to talk about the science of the hero story. We're going to talk about how to incorporate this story, the power of narratives, how to harness narratives to supercharge your life, basically, to infuse your life with meaning. You could think of meaning as a reward that your brain gives you. The meaning is generated through neurochemicals. Anyways, we're going to get into all that stuff. But yeah, the hero story, I believe, is our story. And you don't have to believe it's true. You only have to believe it's necessary. That there's no other way to... there's no other way to unlock who you are. To enter in, to induce that sense of meaning and fulfillment. And we'll talk about why that is. So, thanks for coming to this Heroes Lecture. Thanks for listening. I love this stuff. My family's probably sick of hearing about it. I just talk the ear off all the time. I'm so excited by it. It brought me back from the brink. And anyone can do it. I don't care what book you read at night to help you sleep. I don't care what temple you go to, what prayers you recite. I don't care. I don't care if you don't do any of it. This is accessible to everyone. So, take this journey with me. All right. Ooh, that was so much better. Oh my god, that was so much better. Oh, love all of you. Peace.